بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. One of the implicit meanings is Mafhūm al-adad. Of course, we want to discuss whether such thing is acceptable or not, but this is one of those types of mafhum that you find almost in every book on Usul. So we have already had Mafhūm al-shart, Mafhūm al-wasf, Mafhūm al-istithna. Now we want to discuss Mafhūm al-adad. Before we talk about Mafhūm al-adad, the implicit meaning for numbers or figures, let us see different ways a number can be mentioned or used. So, إن العدد المأخوذ قيدا للموضوع يتصور على أقسام أربعة. The number which is used to modify the subject can be thought in four ways, four types. So you have a subject, then you have mentioned a number to somehow limit it or define it. First, يؤخذ على نحو لا بشرط في جانبي الزيادة والنقيصة. Are you familiar with لا بشرط بشرط لا? I think we had it before. La bishart means it's not conditional upon this. La bishart. For example, if I say, please bring water. Water with respect to temperature, it's now la bishart. Means there is no condition of certain temperature. It's la bishart. Should it be hot? It's not mentioned. La bishart means there is no condition for this judgment or ruling. Sometimes it's bishart shay. For example, I say, please bring water which is cold. It means if it is not cold, I don't want it. So it is bishart shay, means with the condition of coldness. Sometimes I say, please bring water which is not cold. So it's bishart la. The condition is that it must not be cold. It can be moderate, it can be warm, it can be hot, it can be boiling, but not cold. Okay? So it can be la bishart, bishart shay, bishart la, different possibilities. So sometimes number is mentioned, but this number does not make any restriction. It's not that it must reach this number or it must not go beyond this number. Neither in the lower case or in the higher, there is no condition. For example, إن تستغفر لهم 70 مرة فلن يغفر الله لهم. If you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, Allah is not going to forgive them. Okay? This 70 is not conditioning in the sense that it has to be 71, then Allah is going to forgive them. Or for example, it has to be less than 70. Neither lower than that nor higher than that are excluded. Yeah? They are not excluded. You have a question?
No, it's fine. Is there a reason why the number 70 is used then, if it doesn't have any boundary of that?
As an example, but normally in Arabic, when you want to say plenty of times, you can say 7 or 70. It's a very popular number for showing multiplicity. Okay? It's very popular. يؤخذ على نحو لا بشرط في جانبي الزيادة والنقيصة. It is taken in the way that is not conditional. There is no condition. Whether it is to be less or more, none of them is a condition. Like, if you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, God is not going to forgive them. فالاستغفار لهم ما دام كونهم منافقين لا يفيد قل أو كثر. As long as they are munafiq, istighfar is not going to help them. It can be less than 70, more than 70. 70 doesn't make any difference. 2. يؤخذ بشرط الله في كلا الجانبين. Sometimes number is very important and it defines a very clear border. It cannot be more than that, it cannot be less than that. بشرط الله means it must not be anything other than this, neither in being less or more. For example, we say Salatul Fajr 2 rak'ah. It cannot be less, it cannot be more. Salatul Zuhr 4 rak'ah. No less, no more. Number is very fixed and decisive. Okay? Nothing more or less. Sometimes يؤخذ بشرط الله في جانب نقيصة دون الزيادة. It has to be not less than this, but can be more than this. Okay, so excludes lower numbers, but it can include higher numbers. For example, when you want to define what is ma'ul kurr, okay, you say 3.5 shibr is height and width and length, but is it necessary not to be more than this? No. It can be 4, it can be 40, it can be 100,000. We want to say it must not be less than this. So we are excluding lower numbers. Is it clear? يؤخذ بشرط الله في جانب نقيصة دون الزيادة. So this number is mentioned to exclude lower numbers. كما هو الحال في مسألة الكر حيث يجب أن يكون 3 أشبار ونصف طولا. It has to be 3. We say palm. What should we say for one shepherd? Handspan. Handspan. Yeah. 3.5. ولا يكفي. Pardon?
Sorry, what does naqis mean?
Naqis means less. Lower, less. So 3.5 handspan, tulan for length, for width, for height. ولا يكفي الناقص كما لا يضر الزائد. If it is less, does not suffice, but if it is more, does not harm. Is it clear? عكس الصورة الثالثة. The fourth is that to be less is not a problem, to be more is a problem. So excludes more, but can include less. For example, we say when there is Salatul Jama'ah, there should be no more than 1 step distance between you and the person who is standing next to you in Salatul Jama'ah. Of course, if he's connected from other direction, that's not a problem. But if connection is only through you, he should not be 1 step farther away from you. If it is less, it's not a problem. So here, to be less is not a problem. In Ma'ul Kur, to be more was not a problem. Okay? So sometimes number is like 70 times istighfar that we mentioned. for munafiqin, it's not going to work. Whether it is less or more is also the same. It doesn't exclude anything. It's an example. Sometimes excludes less, like ma'ul kur. Sometimes excludes more, like distance in Salatul Jama'ah. Sometimes excludes less and more both, like number of the raka'at in Salatul Fara'id. Yeah? When you say 3 rak'ah Maghrib, it cannot be more, it cannot be less. So this is so far nothing about Usul. This is so far Arabic grammar. Okay? Have you understood this for? Okay. Now, let us see what is Mafhūm. Before we mention what is Mafhūm for adad, we have to establish what is al-ma'na al-zahiri lil-adad, al-mantuq. What is the mantuq? What is the spoken meaning for adad if there is no overriding evidence? Okay, first you have to establish mantuq. What is common sense understanding of adad as mantuq, as a spoken? Ayatollah subhanahu says, al-zahiru annahu bisadad tahdid qillatan wa kathratan. The first assumption that comes to us when we hear about adad is that this adad is very decisive. It has to be not more or less, unless there is evidence. But the first assumption is that there is something special about this number. So among all those 4 types that we mentioned, which are possible, but which one is the main one? The second one, that adad is to be specifically meant. الظاهر أنه بصدد التحديد قلة و It's defining the limit from both sides. It should not be less, it should not be more. You know, like Salatul Fara'is, you know, the units of Salatul Fara'is. إلا إذا دل الدليل على خلافه, unless we have a reason to think that it's not meant in this way. There is a dalil, there is a reference, there is a proof, evidence that suggests it's not that rigid. It can be flexible. For example, الزانية والزاني فاجلدوا كل واحد منهما 100 جلدة. Surah An-Nur, verse 2. When talks about 100 times of beating them, or lashes, these 100 times suggests, like mana zahiri. It's not nas, but it's something that uqala would accept unless there is a powerful and stronger evidence. Otherwise, we go by this. It shows, as al-mana zahiri, that it should be not less nor more. 100. Yeah? Not 80, 90, or not 110 or 102. It shows that there is something special about this number. Okay? This number. ظاهر الآية التحديد في كلا الجانبين. The outward meaning of the ayah is that this is clearly defining from both sides. So, it's clearly defining from both sides. وربما تشهد القرينة على أنه بصدد التحديد في جانب النقيصة دون الزيادة. Yes, if there is evidence to suggest something other than this, it's possible. For example, sometimes the evidence indicates that what is meant by this adad is that it should not be less than this. But if it is more, it's not a problem. But this is different from ma'na zahiri. This is something that because of an additional evidence we have accepted. For example, وَاسْتَشْهِدُوا شَهِيدَيْنَ مِنْ رِجَالِكُمْ. You should ask 2 men to bear witness. It means that less than 2 men is not enough. But if there are 3, 4, this is the problem. Yeah? So here we realize that the number is not decisive from both sides. It's only excluding less, but can include more. But for example, in najasat, when you are talking about washing, when something is touched by najas, sometimes we say you have to wash 2 times, 3 times. It means it should not be less than this. If it is more than this, there is no problem. Of course, if someone becomes waswasi, that's another issue. But as long as cleaning is concerned, if it is more, it's not a problem. Okay? So there's evidence here. Sometimes it is opposite. There is evidence, additional, extra evidence that says it can be less but not more. For example, it is said that for ladies, period is maximum 10 days. It can be less, it can be 9, up to 3. Yeah, so perhaps more than 3, less than 10. Anyway, these are all when there is qarina. If there is no qarina, what we can understand simply by hearing adad is that this adad is decisive from both sides. Should not be less, should not be more. So, if this is the case, then we can understand that there is mafhūm. That if it is less than that, or it is more than that, the ruling would not apply. Yes?
Shaykhna, what is the qarina that we are using to see, for example, that for witnesses, more than 2 would be okay? Is it just a hukum of aql that it sounds like it should be found as not
Because when you are familiar with fiqh, you know that even in any judiciary system, when you have more evidence, it's not going to be a problem. This is the minimum, the bottom line. I don't think there is any judicial system in the world that says you have, for example, enough evidence if your evidence doesn't go more, doesn't go higher. Yeah? It doesn't make sense to say, salam, it has to be not more.
But for example, with the 100 whips,
Yeah.
when we read these, it's pretty clear to us what is meant. That it is exactly this number,
Yes.
you can't have less or more. But he's saying that this is the zahir
Yes.
of mafhūm al-adl,
Yeah.
not in this particular case. So the question comes, what differentiates the extra evidence that will be, is it just a hukum al-aql? Because that could apply to this as well. The zahir.
It can be aql, it can be other hadith, it can be different things. And sometimes it's self-evident. Like evidence, like washing, self-evident. You don't need any actually evidence that if you wash more, there is no problem. It's very obvious.
Yeah. But he's saying that mafhūm al-adl zahiran would
Yeah.
be the exact number.
Yeah,
How
means
did he come to this?
means in normal cases, as average, when we hear adad, we understand that it should be not more, no less. But sometimes particularities of the case help us to understand that it can be flexible from one side or both sides.
So,
You are welcome. كل ذلك يعلم بالقرينة وإلا فيحمل على التحديد في كلا الجانبين. All these things other than the first one. The first one which was مئة جلدة. Other than that, whether it is just from one side of نقصان or one side of زيادة, all should be understood by through قرينة. Let us give you few applications, some examples, real examples that you can apply what we said in hadith and fiqh. هل تكره قراءة أزيد من 7 آيات على الجنوب? Question: if someone is junub, is it makruh, is it disliked to recite more than 7 verses? قيل نعم. Some said yes. How did they argue for this? They said because of mafhūm of this hadith. There is muwathaqa. You know muwathaqa? You remember muwathaqa is the one whose narrators or some of them are not adl imami, but they are reliable. Sama'a says سألته عن الجنوب هل يقرأ القرآن. I asked the Imam, a person who is junub, does he recite the Quran? The answer was ما بينه وبين 7 آيات. He can recite, but up to 7. So this shows that more than 7 is a problem. And it seems it's very reasonable. Such conclusion to say that more than 7 is makruh is reasonable. Another example: يسقط خيار الحيوان بانقضاء المدة وهي 3 أيام. In fiqh we have the discussion of khiyar. Khiyar means the right for cancelling the transaction. Yes? This is Arabic khiyar. In Farsi, khiyar is cucumber. And you can have it for as many days as you want. But this khiyar only is fresh for 3 days.
3 days.
So when you buy an animal, if this animal becomes ill or shows illness within 3 days, you can cancel it. But after 3 days, then maybe you made it ill. So up to 3 days, you have the right of cancellation. Okay? So when it is said there is right for cancellation up to 3 days, doesn't this suggest that more than 3 days, like 4 days, 5 days, there is no right? There's mafhūm. Yeah? Otherwise, why these 3 days were mentioned? If these 3 days were not limiting, why was it mentioned? It's a good example, yeah? It's a real example. 3. لا يجب إرغام الأنف في حال السجود. There's a question. Do you need to put your nose on soil or sand? It is said it's not necessary. Why? Because it has been said that the places for sajda are 7. If anf was also there, it becomes 8. It seems that 7 is limiting. There's mafhūm for 7. Means more than that, it's not necessary. Okay? It's not wajib. It can be mustahab, but not wajib. لمفهوم ما دل على أن السجود على 7 أعظم أعظم أو أعظى. The implicit meaning which says 7 like bones or 7 parts. Another question: is necessary to have 5 people for Salatul Jum'ah?
Like minimum,
Yes.
Ah.
That's the minimum.
We say it seems so because it says Salatul Jum'ah would not be taking place except with 5. It shows that less than 5 is because if less than 5 was also enough, why then they said it takes place with 5? لا تنعقد الجمعة بالأقل من 5. Friday prayer would not take place with lower than 5. You know, for example, there is hadith لا تكون الخطبة والجمعة وصلاة ركعتين على أقل من 5 رهط. The sermons, okay, and Jum'ah and 2 rak'ah, of course, the sermons is sometime maybe for Salatul Eid might be also the same, but Jum'ah is certainly for Salatul Jum'ah. And 2 rak'ah prayer cannot be valid with less than 5. Imam and 4 people. فالمنطوق ينفي انعقادها بالأقل من 5. What is said, the spoken, when it says 5, it shows that less than 5 is not acceptable. Okay? You may say, of course, maybe I am mistaken, but it seems to me this is so obvious that it's not a matter of mafhum. Because it says, لا تكونوا على أقل من 5. There is no need for mafhum. This is clearly saying that less than 5 is not accepted. Yeah? So, and maybe if someone says, what about 5? Then we can say, okay, mafhum is that 5 is accepted. Perhaps Ayatollah Subhani wants to say 5 is accepted by mafhum, less than 5 is not accepted by mantuq. Okay?
So if it had said,
But it's very obvious. Yes.
if it had said Jum'ah is on 5, then we would have mafhum on less than 5, right?
Yeah. Because here actually had the mantuq is about less than 5.
Exactly, yeah. But if it was not,
Yes.
it was saying Jum'ah is 5 people.
Yes. If it is with 5 Jum'ah is valid,
Yeah.
then mafhum was less than 5 is not valid. But here it says less than 5 is not valid, so perhaps mafhum we can say is 5 and more are okay. But then it's not 5 only, 5 and more. So the conclusion is this: if we are given a text in which number is mentioned as a modifier for the subject of the ruling, and there is no overriding evidence, we assume that this number limits from both sides. It cannot be more, it cannot be less. Therefore, then we can have mafhum based on this. Mafhum is that there is no such ruling for lower or for higher. If there is no other evidence. If there is evidence, then we follow evidence. Finally, mafhum al-Laqab. What do we mean by Laqab? Laqab is very similar to wasf. But wasf is when there is mawsuf and wasf. You know, you have a noun followed by an adjective or by a hal or tamiz. Because we said it can be sifat, it can be, na'at, mushtaq, any kind of mushtaq. Na'at, hal, tamiz, anything that gives description. But has to be coming after a noun, mawsuf. For example, if it is said that the person who is alim, rajulun alim, should be respected. Then if there is rajul who is not alim, then if we believe mafhum, say that is not needed. It's not necessary to be respected. Laqab is when it's not preceded by a noun, by mawsuf. You just say alim. Instead of saying rajulun alim, say alim. This is much weaker than wasf. Even with wasf, he didn't accept that there is maf'um. And here is much worse. Because in wasf, there was possibility of thinking that there is rajul, but no alim. But here, if you say there is no alim, nothing remains. Because there is no mawsuf. Al-maqsūdu bil-laqab kullu ismin سواء أكان مشتقا أم جامدا وقع موضوعا للحكم. Any noun, whether that noun is derived, is derivative, mushtaq, is taken from a root or it's not taken from any root, which has been used as a subject for the ruling. كالفقير في قولهم أطعم الفقير. When they say feed the poor, feed the needy. This al-faqir is not mawsuf. He didn't say al-rajul al-faqir, al-jar al-faqir, for example, qarib al-faqir. It says just al-faqir. At'am al-faqir. Does it mean that if there is no faqir, we should not feed? We say it doesn't mean anything. It just means that faqir should be fed. It's silent about others. As-sariq was-sariqa in this ayah. Was-sariq was-sariqa faqtaw aydiyahuma. What about if there is a person who is not sariq or sariqa? Ayah doesn't talk about it. معنى مفهوم اللقب نفي الحكم عما لا يتناوله عموم الاسم. If we believe in مفهوم اللقب, it means that the ruling is for sariq wa sariqa. So anything which is not called sariq and sariqa doesn't have this ruling, unless proved otherwise. Or at'am al-faqir. At'am is for faqir. Anything which doesn't come under the title of faqir is not included. Nafyul hukm. You are removing, you negating ruling from anything that the generality of name or noun does not include it. وبما أنك عرفت عدم دلالة الوصف على المفهوم, since you learned that even wasf, which is much better, much higher in dalala than laqab, doesn't have mafhum. So for laqab it's even clearer that there is no mafhum. فَيَكُونُ اللَّقَبُ أَوْلَى بِعَدَمِ الدَّلَالَةِ. So it's more obvious that laqab doesn't have mafhum. بَلْ غَايَةُ الْأَمْرِ, the maximum that we can say, عدم دلالة الكلام على ثبوته في غير ما يشمله اللقب. We say that this does not say anything about those cases which do not fall under this title. At'am al-faqir. What about, for example, a stranger, gharib? It doesn't say anything.
So we don't feed.
So you cannot say it's wajib and you cannot say it's not necessary. It's silent. You have to go and find another evidence. By this you cannot say definitely yes or definitely no. Nothing definitely can be said. Nothing definite can be said.
What is the word laqab mean?
Laqab means like title. Okay, like a title. But here we don't mean title like Sir or Mr. or Hujjatul Islam. Here we mean by laqab a noun which has become the subject of a ruling. Allah. بل غاية الأمر عدم دلالة الكلام على ثبوته في غير ما يشمله اللقب. The maximum we can say is that this kalam, this speech, okay, would not indicate that this ruling is correct, is applicable for other cases. أما دلالته على العدم, to say that it indicates that it's not there, no. We just say it doesn't indicate. It's silent. Not that it says no. أما دلالته على العدم فلا. فمثلا إذا قلنا إن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم رسول الله, if we say that Prophet is messenger of God, فمفاده ثبوت الرسالة للنبي, it means that Rasulullah is Nabi. But does it mean that other than Rasulullah there is no Nabi? No. It doesn't mean that. It's just silent. Yes.
Shaykhana, what about Allah's case? Allah huwa al-ilah, for example.
Huwa is different.
If we don't use huwa.
If you don't use huwa and you don't have any extra evidence, so this ayah is silent. For example, if someone says Allahu Rahimun, does it mean that other than Allah there is no Rahim? No. You have to argue from other sources. فمفاده ثبوت الرسالة للنبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ويكون غير ناظر إلى رسالة المسيح عليه السلام مثلا لا نفيا ولا إثباتا. It doesn't say anything about prophethood and mission of another prophet, like Prophet Masih. This is why our ulama says ثبوت الشيء لا ينفي ما عداه. When we confirm something, it does not mean that we are rejecting about other cases. If I say, I very much respect this alim, it doesn't mean I don't respect other alims. Yeah? If I say, I love, for example, Fridays, it doesn't mean I don't love other days. ثبوت الشيء لا ينفي عما عداه. Okay? Application. روي عن أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نهى أن يكفن الرجال في ثياب الحرير. Rasulullah, according to this narration, said men should not be put and clothes with silk kafan. Yeah, for their kafan, the material should not be from silk. Can we understand by implication that women also should not be, or women is okay, or it is just silent? لو قلنا بمفهوم اللقب, if we accept مفهوم اللقب, then it means that رجال cannot be clothes with silk, but other than رجال, no problem. If we accept مفهوم. If we don't accept مفهوم, as we said above, we say this hadith is silent about women. It's just talking about men. Okay? So, لو قلنا بمفهوم اللقب, if we believe that laqab has implicit meaning, لدل, means لدل هذا الحديث على جواز تكفين المرأة به. It shows that it's possible to use silk as kafan for women. وإلا, if you don't believe in مفهوم اللقب, فلا, it would not indicate. تم الكلام في المقصد الثالث والحمد لله رب العالمين. Here there is مفهوم. تم الكلام في المقصد الثالث means not more. It can, less, yes, but not more. Yes? It's like, when we said there is no problem in being less but not more. Okay. Shall I give you a little introduction to prepare your mind? When is Adhan? 10 minutes, okay. The first part is just introduction. You are familiar. It's a reminder. You remember we had Umūm wa Khuṣūṣ in Mabadi Usul al-Fiqh. What is Am? Am? Yes, but Mutlaq is also general. What is the difference between Am and Mutlaq? Am is something that by a linguistic mean indicate generality. So there is something in the linguistic side, in our terms that we use, in the statement that we make. So al-Umūm yufhamu min al-lafz. It's understood from the terms that you have used. Mutlaq, if you remember, we said generality is understood from muqaddamatul hikmah. You remember? For example, if I say akram kulla alimin, generality is understood from kull. But if I say a'tiq raqabatan, and then you say this raqaba can be mu'min, can be non-mu'min, because it was possible to limit it, but it has not been limited, and the speaker was fi maqam al-bayan. Therefore, we assume that he didn't mean that it has to be mu'min. This is itlaq. So in itlaq, we don't have a term that indicates generality. In umum, we have something either as a term like kul, jami, ayyo, or the structure like ما جاءني أحد نكرة في سياق النفي تدل على العموم. Okay? So Am is indicating generality, inclusiveness, but by using a linguistic indicator. تعريف العام العام من المفاهيم الواضحة الغنية عن التعريف. Am is one of those concepts which are clear and they don't need definition. Every person understands what is Am, literally. But technically, لكن عرفه الأصوليون بتعاريف عديدة. Ulama al-Usul have defined it in many ways. Its technical definition is a bit complicated. Therefore, they have defined it in different ways. وَنَاقَشُوا فِيهَا. Then they have debated and discussed about these definitions. Sometimes they said, بِعَدَمِ الْإِنْعِكَاسِ. They said, this is not excluding. Sometimes they say, عَدَمُ الْإِضْطِرَادِ. This is not including, So A has brought a definition, then they say your definition is not inclusive or is not exclusive. So they debated. وَلْنَقْتَصِرْ عَلَى تَعْرِيفٍ وَاحِدٍ. Let us focus and just mention one hadith. اقتصار means to limit. To mention one definition. تعريفٍ واحد. Just one definition. شمول الحكم لجميع أفراد مدخوله. We mean by Am and Umūm only this. Umūm means to include all the instances of this concept. Akram kulla alim means anyone who falls under the concept of alim is included. This Am is inclusive. شمول الحكم لجميع أفراد مدخوله. all the instances of what this kull has come before it is included. وَيُقَابِلُهُ الْخَاص. Khas is when all are not meant. It can be few. It's not all. تَقْسِيمُ الْعَامِ. Then there are three types of am. This is enough for today. Just these three is enough. And it's a reminder. I think we had this before. We said there are three types of generality, three types of umum. Al-umum al-istighraqi, al-umum al-majmu'i, al-umum al-badali. Al-umum al-istighraqi, al-umum al-majmu'i, al-umum al-badali. Three types of umum. It's very easy to understand and easy to forget. But inshallah, if you understand properly, you don't forget. Okay. Al-umum al-istighraqi. Istighraq means induction. Means it includes all instances, all individuals. Okay? No individual is left out. Istighraq, inclusive. You exhaust all the case. For example, when we say akram kulla alim, all ulama are included. Sum kulla yawman fi shahr Ramadan. It includes every day in the month of Ramadan. Kulla yawm. Okay? Al-umum al-majmu'i is when something as a whole is meant, but not different instances. For example, you have to fast the whole day in the month of Ramadan. When you say whole day, it includes many hours and minutes and seconds. All of them are included, but all of them together. If you don't fast all of them together, you have not done anything. But if you have 1,000 alim and you are told akram kulla alim, this is indeed analyzed and is reduced to 1,000 commands. If you respect half of them, you have done half of the job. If you have respected 70%, you have done 70% of the job. Yeah? But if you fast 70% of the day, you have not done anything. Yeah? Is it clear? So, al-umum al-majmu'i is when the ruling belongs to it as a whole. Then al-umum al-badali as alternative. We say, for example, feed any poor person. Not every poor person, any poor person. So, anyone that you can feed is appreciated. Badali means it includes all, but not all together. Means either this or this or this. Is it clear? So there are three types of umum. Al-umum al-istighraqi, al-umum al-majmu'i, al-umum al-badali. Inshallah, we can inshallah continue this discussion on Wednesday, next week inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.